We have not watched this Omi in quite some time. However, that does not mean we do not support them. I don't know why it would. But click that link that just showed up in the description, in the Twitch chat over there. And if you're watching on YouTube in the future, it will be down in the description below. This video is talking about how PixelBush loves the new Skull Merchant rework, which I wouldn't say I love it, but I would say that it is definitely a healthy step for the game, and I'm very happy to have it. And I made a video about this already on my own channel, doing my own thing with commentary. But, you know, I feel like people asked for this for so long, and now they're crying that the character got nerfed and into the ground. I'm like,
it's like working a job where the environment is hot as heck and asking for a drink station, then complaining about there isn't enough variety to choose from.
Yep, quite literally. It's like you just people want to have their cake and eat it too. You want to have your cake and eat it too. Like, yeah, Skull Merchant, you know, a little rough around the edges right now. Probably a bottom 5 character in the game, at least in the BTB. But that's not unheard of. Like, there are other characters of similar strength there. I don't think she's the worst character in the game. I don't know if she's even bottom 3. And I'd much rather have that than I sit by Jen and I win. And I think the people that are just kind of like flipping out, I don't know. I feel like content creators are just kind of in a content drought and they have nothing to whine about right now. So this is just the target. So let's go see what Pixel has to say about it.
Let's sit around the campfire together and talk about Dead by Daylight, specifically the 7.3.0 PTB and the Skull Merchant rework. Okay, so everyone's favourite lean, mean drone machine is back in the headlines, and the responses are exactly what we should come to expect at this point whenever Skull Merchant appears in the conversation. Some things never change. But thankfully, Skull Merchant is not one of those things, because her rework is here, and having been playing it on PTB a fair bit, I feel comfortable giving my verdict on it. And I love it. I'm not going to understate things here. This design, this reimagining of Skull Merchant's power, is pretty much everything I wanted her to be. I really, really like what we have here, because almost everything I was worried about turned out to not be an issue at all. Behavior addressed pretty much everything I expressed concern about in my prior video about Skull Merchant's upcoming rework.
Roulette? Yeah.
And when I say almost or pretty much here and there,
yeah, but it's my favorite association perk in the game.
Room, and that's that she's not particularly, you know, powerful. That's been the issue that everybody has found with her, and if you ask anyone who's played with her on PTB what they think, that's pretty much the extent of the criticism that you'll find. Yeah, fun but bad. Fun but bad. I need to close my window. That lightning strike was very close. that was dangerous. Yeah, now that I'm not going to die from lightning, keep going. She's not very strong, and no, the creator might just leave it at that.
Fun but weak.
But as you might have noticed, I've got plenty of runtime left in this bad boy, so I'm going to be going a little bit deeper. While I will concede that she isn't very strong, I think there's 2 important points everybody's missing. First of all, while she is bad, I don't think she's
an obsession swap after you get a speed boost after.
Second of all, a killer being weak on the PTB isn't necessarily a sign of a failure on its own.
After you kick a pallet while chasing an obsession,
people who tried Skull Merchant rework are talking, you'd think she's some D-tier garbage, worst killer in the game type of deal. But as far as I can see, she's really not.
Yeah.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
She's bad in the same way that, like, Doctor or Legion are bad. Not in the same way that Trapper or Myers are bad. She's the kind of killer that, in your average match, will be serviceable if played well against most survivors.
I didn't lose in the PTB once while playing her.
People who really know what they're doing.
So.
But here's the fun part about New Skull Merchant. Yes, she's weak. But she's weak and buffable. And on the PTB, that's what matters. Her kit has a lot of moving parts, meaning that her buffs and QOL changes can go in a lot of places, and because she's now actually a pretty healthy design, these buffs won't risk making her a problem like a prior iteration, assuming the buffs are done right at least. I'll be covering what I would do to buff her later on in the video, but before we get onto that, it's probably a good idea to go over what the new Skull Merchant actually does, if you've not played the PTB. Skull Merchant now has 6 drones.
No. What we do is we just listen to content creators and we parrot their opinions and never check for ourselves because we are mindless sheep. Come on now. Get with the trend.
Each one has 3 different modes. Stealth mode, scouting mode, and disabled.
Make her more fun? It does.
When she places a drone, it spawns in stealth mode and will enter scouting mode when it spots a survivor. Stealth mode drones spin around slowly in the air trying to detect survivors. And while they do this by emitting those 2 beams that spin with them, players can't see those beams. Survivors have to intuit where the beams are and what the drone can see from the position of the little lights on it. When a survivor moves through a beam and gets spotted,
Every 2 years though, you can't say that when it's not even out of PTB. Like, you don't even know what they're going to change from PTB to live. You can't say, well, she's not going to get changed for 2 years. That's a panic statement. That's like a doomsaying statement. That is not, you don't know that for sure. That's a guess. There's nothing to really substantiate that.
Mode, where the beams become visible but move a lot faster. The one major caveat here is that the drones cannot see stationary survivors, meaning they do very little when left by generators. This effectively kills her 3-genning by itself. In addition, survivors can try to disable a drone.
I had somebody trying to say in my YouTube comments that her 3-genning potential was better. Like, did you even play the PTB? What? Okay.
Which will give them a lock-on stack if they fail the hacking minigame, or will become disabled for 45 seconds before turning to stealth mode if they succeed. Survivors spotted by a stealth or scouting drone get a stack of lock-on, which they cannot lose once they have it, kind of like Ghostface's mark progression. At 3 stacks, the drone that marked them will fire a claw trap at that survivor, injuring them if they are healthy or deep wounding them if they are injured. Claw traps fall off after 45 seconds, but their effects are a little different this time. While they still provide the haste and radar tracking that they do on live, they replace the pallet break with the broken status effect for as long as they're attached, and if a survivor who's already claw trapped runs into a drone, they get their killer instant revealed and 6 seconds of a 10% hinder. She's also got a ton of brand new add-ons, and with that, holy shit, they did a lot to change her, but we're finally through it all.
Although most of them
and if you think my run through of the power hasn't helped you at all, then understanding what it does or how to use it, then just wait till you play with it, because this power is pretty confusing at first glance. When it got revealed earlier in the week, the written description was met with a universal community response of, eh? I don't think that's really gone away since the PTB. So let me give you the cliff notes of what the power kind of wants you to do, in my opinion anyway. Skull Merchant 2.0 is more like a trap killer than anything else nowadays. Rather than placing a drone by a generator and sniffing it harder than Charlie Sheen going through customs, you want to place it ahead of time at a choke point or an entrance to a tile that a survivor is going to run through when you're chasing them. Anybody who's familiar with how to play Hag will know what I mean here. You don't tend to put Hag's traps up touching a generator per se, but you want to put them up in a way that survivors run into them unawares. You should treat Skull Merchant's drones the same way. This means if you take chasing somebody who's healthy but has 2 lock-on stacks, well, you get something like this.
Yeah! I had a few of those in the
You hear
PTB
that?
one.
That's the sound of every night player in existence coming to the point of orgasm at the same time because they wish they could 2-tap this cleanly. Setting a drone up as you go and chase can be useful, but the mileage of that really depends on the tile in question. At a low tile, they'll get marked very quickly and they're basically forced to leave instantly if they're healthy, but there's some actual play to it, especially at taller tiles if you know where the drone is and can play around its slow spinning speed before it's activated into scouting mode. If they see you set it up, they will avoid lock-on like the plague, but if you can place it in a tile and they run into it unawares, there's a good chance they won't have a choice in the matter and will just get a stack before they can react. Similar to Legion or Plague, the power is great at getting the first health state but struggles at getting the second one, and this would be where she comes unstuck. What if survivors just don't heal? Well, if nothing else, you're a stealth killer. You get undetectable when you
the new
put the drone up,
undetectable's
so you
pretty
can
nice. That's what I
capitalize on
like about her
survivors
kit
just staying
change.
injured by getting cheap and easy hits. And you're not even totally powerless if
to
a survivor
hunters?
is
No.
injured because
I think
claw trapping
people-
them gives them
I
that
agree
meaningful-
with Pixel. I feel like everybody that's saying she's worse than Trapper is just like delusional. Completely delusional. Yeah, TLDR, what I was saying was just I feel like it's just kind of like content creators don't have anything to yell about right now, so like the big I hate you behavior thing is I can't believe you were in Skull Merchant, so yeah.
It's nothing crazy, but it's more options against injured survivors than the no options at all that, like, Legion's got. I know I'm making this power sound actually quite effective, and if it worked consistently like I described, it probably would be, but unfortunately that isn't the reality we live in right now. Her stealth drone spins so slowly that when a survivor enters a tile with one, there's a good chance it'll take way too long to pick them up because turning into the correct position to catch them is glacial.
On the flip side, though, if there's no nearby tile to chain into, yeah, it's actually a really good time to put a drone down. So you can think about that too.
Slow. This, I think, is by far the biggest thing holding her back as a trap killer. If her traps just don't work half the time because they're facing the wrong way, what's the damn point of running a survivor into it? This kind of goes for scouting drones too, but in a different way. Since survivors know where a scouting drone is, their first priority is shift Wing in a straight line as far past it as they can. Which is fair enough, but right now on PTB you can run right across the radius without them catching up to you pretty consistently. This needs to change. And you could do this by speeding the beam up, but I think the better way of doing this would be to increase the beam radius specifically for scouting mode, so it might clip survivors who are trying to shift W away and force survivors to path wider a loop if they want to avoid getting locked on. The only other issue I'm noticing here that puts her status as a trap killer into question is her drone count. They buffed it from 4 to 6, but given you're meant to pop these things in tiles ahead of time, I don't think she has enough. Especially since a lot of the time you'll be wanting to chain drones back to back to get those lock-on stacks. 7 or even 8 drones would be better here, I think. 6 just feels way too limiting on any map with decent size, especially since they don't go through floors anymore. So here's my official feedback for the Skull Merchant's PTB rework. She needs some buffs to her consistency as a trap placement killer, and to do this I would advise the following. Increasing the spin speed of a stealth mode drone to the same as or near to the spin speed of a scouting drone, buff the detection range of a scouting drone's beams, and up her drone count from 6 to 7
Which
or
isn't
8.
a huge deal, honestly.
There are other changes
Very
that could be
minor
made
changes.
too, like buffing her power cooldown, increasing the spin speed of scouting drones as well.
Yeah, but this is a good starting off point. This is a good jumping off point. This you could do from PTB to live, and it wouldn't be that big of a change. It would just be nice quality of life stuff. So
Add-on changes would also be welcome. But these are the important 3 that I think are necessary for the Skull Merchant to be good at what her kit encourages her to do. I suppose I could wrap the video up here, keep it short and sweet, but before I do, there's something important I want to get across. I don't believe that Skull Merchant being a weak killer is indicative of a bad rework or a bad PTB. It's very far from that. Yes, she's weak, we've covered that. For the most part, I've avoided saying the word bad because this is not a bad rework by any stretch of the imagination. In every way other than her power
changed
level,
at all?
the Skull Merchant...
Yes and no. A lot of them have changed, but it's mostly to try and do a similar effect to what it used to do, but because the drones work differently, the way those effects get applied are a little different. So they're similar, they're different, but fairly similar. It's not like a dramatic add-on change. It's not like an add-on pass. It's more of just like, okay, well, her power works like this now, so like, how do we implement this? Yeah, hey, Wiseman. How's it going, homie? How is your... Tuesday. Yeah, it's like, what day is it? Tuesday. Hopefully your Tuesday's going well.
Rework is an absolute success. The new power is a thematic home run, since a major part of Adriana's method of killing was to use the drones to corral and monitor her chosen victims to set the stage for a perfect
Not stand in
hunt.
one place.
The drones do that now far better than they ever did.
I'm sorry to hear that,
And the
Wes.
fact that you're not punished by a claw trap for
Hopefully
disabling
you can
them
relax now.
makes taking out a drone as a survivor feel way better and more impactful, even though they do come back. I'm a big fan of the game of Grandma's Footsteps that you play when you go to take a drone down. Grandma's Footsteps, by the way, is what we call red light, green light in a country where we know what things are meant to be called.
Okay,
The closest thing to problematic in her kit is the zoning a deployed drone can present in chase, but at the end of the day, it's 1 health state at most, it's got a lot of mitigating factors, and is pretty small potatoes compared to like Knight, Artist, or Xenomorph. She's a trap killer who's both encouraged to take chases to herd survivors into her control zones, and who has a versatile enough kit to not feel turbo-restricted like Hag or Trapper can do. You've got stealth, you've got zoning, you've got hindered and haste, you've kind of got everything going on at once, and it's really pretty sick when it all comes together just right. Let me be real here, Skull Merchant was never going to be a mechanically intensive killer. And if you're somebody who enjoys killers with solely mechanical skill expression in the vein of Blight, Wesker or Xenomorph, then I understand why this rework could be underwhelming for you. But you've got to understand here, no matter what they did to Skull Merchant...
Not every character has to be top 5 in the game. We don't have to aim for Wesker power for every character that we make. No matter how strong you make characters, there's going to be people who aren't as strong as the top 5. And that's just a thing. It doesn't mean necessarily it's a bad design. I think the main thing is power disparity. How much weaker are they? You know? We don't need people in S++ tier, we don't need people in D- tier, right? Like make that distance, that power disparity, not so crazy. But, like, not every killer gets to be top 5, and that's okay. Fine.
Short of just deleting her completely and replacing her with something else, You are probably never going to like her, and that's entirely okay.
Tell him. Tell him. I said this at the end of my commentary video. I said about this. I'm like, none of you give a shit about this character. You don't. You didn't play her. You hated her, and you certainly weren't going to play her now. Why do you care? It's the most like outrage culture thing I've ever seen. It's just like, I can't believe they ruined the Skull Merchant. I'm like, you cared about the Skull Merchant? No, you didn't. Don't act like you gave a shit about this character. You liar. You're just saying this to be like, oh my god, behavior f***ed up again. It's just doomsaying. It's just like raising a panic just so you can raise your view count. Like, you don't care. Stupid.
Skull Merchant just isn't for you. And as long as she's not a parasite on the game like her old power was, and as long as she's not underplayed because she sucks or feels bad, there's nothing wrong with a killer with niche appeal. Being an area control based information and micromanagement killer is everything Skull Merchant was always supposed to be, and she's finally got to be it. I know a lot of people just don't like playing that, but not everything has to be for you. Not every new killer has to be a Wesker or a Xenomorph with a super broad appeal to the same demographics over and over again. I've not had a killer I've clicked with this much since the Artist 2 years ago.
Yeah, she's fun. She is a fun character. She like a lot of fair comparisons I saw in the PTV was the act, which was much more fair, was like compared to the Clown. Clown is fun to play as, but he is fairly weak. Like, he is not a particularly strong character. I don't think he's like bottom 5 or anything, but he's not a particularly strong character. But he's fun to play as. He's a cool M1 killer. Probably one of my favorite M1 killers to play. Like, he doesn't have to be top 5 for me to enjoy him, or top 10 for me to enjoy him. You just, me throw purple bottle, you slow there, me fast here in the yellow bottle, and I get my M1, you know? Like, it's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. You play Killer too? I mostly play Killer 60-40. And I'm a Xenomorph main. I used to be top 15, but now I'm top 20, because my stats slipped a little bit. But we're going to be working on that after the React is over.
I've not really cared at all about any killer releases in the past 2 years, and finally, at long last, I'm getting something that I really like. I've had to put up with so many new killers that are just boring me to tears, and I finally got a new toy to play with. She's unique, she's flavorful, she's got massive build diversity, a trap-setting skill expression in a way that no other killer's got. She's pretty healthy as new releases go.
It's probably pretty bad
the
outside.
only issue she has at this point that isn't just a matter of personal taste is her power level.
There's a microphone brand, pseudo attack.
Power level is the easiest thing to adjust between PTB and live release anyway. And I can already see the vision of the comments saying I'm biased because I like Skull Merchant as a character. I've grown fond of her, and that fondness has clouded my objectivity. And for what it's worth, you're probably right. I have a pre-existing positive opinion of the character, and anything that realizes that character in a way that isn't a tumor on the game, I'm going to view in a positive light. I'm not going to argue with that because it's true, but I want to ask you a question. Do you really think the Dead by Daylight community and the solid 95% of community figures who literally made it their business to hate every facet of Skull Merchant's existence for the past 6 months are any less influenced by their existing biases than I am? You can't.
Yeah, it's like I was also somebody that did not like the Skull Merchant release. I didn't get into the whole like, oh wow, sexy is bad for the game, because I think that's just kind of like cringe insully behavior. Nah, I didn't really follow that angle of it too well. I did think her story was weird. I thought her power was cringe, but I name it, right? Like, I named that. Like, I was never a fan of this character. Definitely wasn't a fan of the character when she released. Like, I know that it's funny that I actually don't hate this character, you know, but I guess that's just me. I understand, like, hey, I want to see things as they are and not just like dogpile this thing, right? So I feel like all these people that are like, oh my gosh, they ruined Skull Merchant. Like, you didn't care about Skull Merchant. You like Skull Merchant. Like Pixel said, it's like so many people made it their content creation farming for numbers to make fun of this character for months and months and months and months and months. So like, don't act like you were ever gonna play this character or enjoy this character no matter what they did to it. Like, why you shouldn't have cared. Like, there's no reason you would care this much, and it comes off as super ingenuous, like disingenuous, that you're like crying so much over something that you hated and wanted changed.
Billy is rip-off Bubba. Merch will be rip-off Predator.
Probably. because that character's probably coming, because they've already made a deal with Fox for Xeno, so Homie Predator's probably coming. I hope so. That'd be cool.
I will say that my strong emotional reaction to this character disqualifies me from talking about her, when that metric would disqualify every single creator and community voice in this game. Sorry about how angry that got, just had to get that off my chest.
No, it sucks when you can tell that the community is being super disingenuous. It sucks. Like, it's like tabloids, you know? Like, it's like, we've talked about this before in the DVD community. It's like tabloids, right? Like, some people are out here trying to make good, honest content, where they're trying to add something to the game, they're trying to be constructive, they're trying to have a conversation about the game, whatever. Maybe they're trying to make some funny content, like some funny clips videos or compilations. But some people are just like how Skull Merchant was to the game, ironically. Some people are just parasites. They just thrive and swim through negativity, and it's just frustrating to see the disingenuousness of like, wow, I care so much about the state of the Skull Merchant. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. Don't lie to me. We were all talking about how if they just deleted this character tomorrow, we wouldn't even care if we didn't get a refund. We'd be like, okay, well, at least the game's healthier. So don't say all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe they ruined it. It's disingenuous, and people are being dishonest, and it feels icky. It feels icky to see people being dishonest for the sake of pushing views. It feels icky. It feels gross. So you were totally within your right to get mad about that.
The Skull Merchant is not perfect, but it was a successful rework by almost every metric. Her ability to hold 3 gems almost indefinitely is dead as a doornail, her skill expression and playstyle flexibility has gone up substantially, her power is healthier and more thematic than it's ever been, and we finally got a new trap
Do you
killer.
think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a strong competitor against Dead by Daylight?
No. They're too different. They're too different in games. No. They're not in direct competition with each other, I don't think. They're too different of games. They play completely differently. They're both ASIMs, but like the gameplay flow is completely different, so they're not like in the same wheelhouse.
To boot. I'm really impressed that Behaviour managed to get this out so quickly after Skull Merchant's release. Just give her those buffs, man. Please, just a bit of a buff. You can do it. One little waffle thin buff. And all it took was a PTV which f***ed up every Macmillan map with insane chain tiles and somehow made Borga even better for Survivor.
Yeah, and invisible walls everywhere.
Professional opinion haver's work is never done. But I guess until next time, I'll see you around. Ta-ta for now.
Yeah, I think that she was a fun but bad character. She's a fun but bad character, which is fine. Like, and she will receive buffs, even if it's not like within from PTB to live, which she probably will have some adjustments from PTB to live. They will buff this character. They don't leave characters in the dust like this. Unless there's something complicated like a license that makes it harder for them to adjust the character, which she is an original character, so she doesn't have to worry about that. Like I said near the end of that video, I think it's like mostly disingenuous, people complaining and whining and outraging over it, so I think people should get off that train.
I know I may not be the first one to point this out,
you're like the 10
but
millionth.
you look like Moist Critical, which is another creator I like.
You're like the 15 millionth person to say that. I'm gonna hear that till I'm dead. Till I'm 6 feet under the ground.
I wasn't able to see New Borgo. How bad is it, Bran?
It's pretty bad. It's smaller, but it has kind of like that Wrecker's Yard thing where like all the loops are super tight together. Or Eerie, I think Eerie's a better example. Where all the loops are super close together and all the loops are super good and they introduce new loops that are even better. It's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. I really hope it doesn't go live the way it is. Yeah, like I was saying, it's like I feel like this whole content creator outrage about Skull Merchant being so terrible, I can't believe he messed it up. It's like, you didn't care. You're farming views. That's what you're doing. You're like, behavior bad, meh, and you're farming views for negativity's sake and not because you actually care about this character at all. So, it makes me disappointed to see that. Makes me disappointed to see that.
I did not mean to annoy you or anything like that, frown.
No, I'm just sarcastic. You'll know when I'm annoyed. I get quiet when I'm irritated and annoyed. That's something chat can attest to. When I'm mad, like I'm actually mad at you or I'm irritated at you, I get quiet. If I'm like hee hee ha ha, like I'm doing fine, like I'll jab with you. Like we'll have a back and forth, right? Like I'm like, yeah, whatever. Hee hee. But like, if I'm mad, I get quiet. I'm mad, I get quiet, so you're fine. Trust me. Yeah, I think people are just kind of like, this is nothing. This is a nothing burger. Speaking of Moist Critical, this is a thing that Moist Critical says a lot. Good old Charlie says it's a nothing burger. People whining and complaining and crying all the time about this new Skull Merchant change. It's a nothing burger. There's nothing to sink your teeth into. It is a non-controversy. There is nothing to be upset about. There's nothing to be worried about. And it's just, I feel like we're just in a little content space where there's not much to talk about. So it's just like, well, time to dogpile behavior and whine about new Skull Merchant. Like, it's like, and it does come off really disingenuous and really just like, I need to just be mad at something and farm views, and it's a nothing burger. So we'll leave it at that. It's a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger. So don't get too invested in people whining about it.